Shalom, Phil Blazer here. On today's broadcast, we have a repeat interview, and it's a great one. Bronco Lustig, one of the producers of Schindler's List, will be with us. And I will delve into my Jewish roots. Well, actually, Meyer Denn, genealogist, will do that for me. We'll look into the Blazer name. That's what we'll do. And we'll have that program for you coming up in just a few minutes. Shalom. You know, about a month or two ago, we had a very interesting guest with us, Meyer Denn. He talked about how we can discover our Jewish roots and how he can help do that, because that's like his job, Meyer. How are you?
Good.
It's really a pleasure having you on before, and it's such an enticing subject, going back into history, and especially it seems to be a preoccupation with us Jews today. But there was certainly a generation before us, our parents, grandparents, had seemed to close off the past. And so as a result, many of us in the age group, let's say from in the 50s on down, we don't know anything about the past. We may know our grandparents' names, and that's where it stops. We don't know anything about their history in Europe, nor any of the history prior to that. And, you know, so we've been kibitzing about the Blazer name. It came up. And so I asked you to kind of look into to my name. I had a feeling from my late father that the name wasn't even Blazer. He wasn't sure if it really was Blazer, and you've come up with a whole bunch already of information.
It's interesting, Phil, because I want to back up a little bit, a couple of things that you'd said to me when we first met, and that was, first of all, that your grandfather came through the port of Galveston, Texas, which was like my grandfather.
Well, the one thing I got, and I might say this, how I got this document, someone was doing some research from somebody living in Los Angeles, in St. Paul, where I was born and where my family came to from Europe. And they came across my name, knowing my name and seeing me on television or radio or whatever. They came up with this document that they sent me because my grandfather is named after me. I'm named after my grandfather, Philip Blazer. And so I sent you this document.
Right.
And
well, the document, by the way, is that one of the first things that we would do as a genealogist. We try to get connected with our immigrant past, and one of those documents is the Declaration of Intention, or the Petition for Naturalization. That document has on it the port of entry, the name of the boat, and so on. As you know, you had mentioned to me also that your grandfather was from a place called Zamość, which is a town, or a medium-sized town in the Lublin area. When you sent me the document, however, I found that, on the contrary, it didn't mention anything about Zamość, but it mentioned about a village named Kosnobrok, and that's in Russian Poland. Well, it happens to be a coincidence that my great-grandparents also came from a town called Krosnobrod, which I presume this was the same one, and I looked, and sure enough, we found out that it was the same Krosnobrod.
So here we have a situation where, Mayor, your mishpucha from the past probably ran into my mishpucha of the past.
Well, you'll see in a little while. Well, I won't actually show you today, but I believe that the families even intermarried back in Europe. There were some relationships between your family and my family. The interesting thing, first of all, I want to point out also that since your grandfather came through Galveston, Texas, he came on the boat, the Hanover, which happened to be the same boat that my grandfather came over on from Bremenhaven, Germany. And in any event, going back to the records of Krosnobrod, I was able to locate, through the Mormon Research Facility, the Family History Library, the records for the town, the village of Krosnobrod in Poland. And looking back, I found some very interesting things. First of all, I found that your family name indeed was not Blazer, it was Bluzer, B-L-U-Z-E-R, Bluzer. And looking back on this document, it shows where your grandfather was born in 1873, according to the Declaration of Intention, the American document. However, after going back and looking through the Polish records, I found in the Russian Polish records a document that's very interesting. I'll read it. It's very brief. It says, it happened in the village of Krosnobrod on the 15th day of July in the year 1872 at 9 o'clock in the morning. The Jew, it actually says Stare Zakony, which means the believer of the old book, which is a euphemism for the word Jew. The Jew, Joseph Bluzer, age 22, who resides in Krosnobrod, presented himself in the presence of witnesses, the Jews Moshe Entner, a caretaker of the Jewish community of Krosnobrod, age 52, and Shlomo Fecher, a student of divinity, age 42. resident of Krasny Brod. They presented to us an infant in the male gender and declared that he was born on the 7th day of July of this year at 4 o'clock in the afternoon from his lawfully wedded wife, Perla, from the house of Spiesseisen. There's your grandmother's maiden name. Actually, I'm sorry, your great-grandmother's maiden name, Spiesseisen. She was 22 years of age, and the infant was given the name Pinchas, or Pinchas in Hebrew.
Which is my Hebrew name is Pinchas also.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I didn't know that. When you said Phil, I figured maybe it was Fievel. But when I found the record that said Pinchas, if you recall on the phone, I asked you, I said, was your Hebrew name Pinchas? And you said, when you said it was. And at the bottom of this document, you'll see your great-grandfather's signature.
We'll be right back. We have some messages. We'll continue our conversation. Phil Blazer with FM 100. What is FM 100? That's your new Jewish community radio station for all of Southern California. For the first time in history, we have our own station 24 hours each and every day. And you can subscribe. Music and news direct from Israel on the hour in English and Hebrew. So call us, 818-786-4000, and subscribe to your station, FM 100. Your Israel experience begins with El Al, Israel's national airline. El Al offers up to 4 weekly flights, the fastest service between Los Angeles and Tel Aviv, and extremely attractive fares. Only on El Al Israel Airlines. Please call your travel agent or call El Al at 1-800-235-3525 for more information. A trip of a lifetime, a one-time adventure, and Shangri-La Adventures presents it to you. Departing October 3rd, 15-day tour to Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing, and Xi'an. Deluxe hotels, super deluxe tour, cultural programs, and so much more. Yes, strictly kosher meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all prepared by the supervision of the Orthodox Rabbinical Association, USA. Don't miss the strictly kosher tour with Jewish sites included to the Orient. Call Shangri-La Adventures at 1-800-843-8228 now.
Drought has left water supplies depleted.
Lack of rain leaves farmers worried.
It's the worst flooding in over a century, and authorities...
Rain on the way as damage reports.
Well, something that we should probably discuss a little bit, which happened a lot some decades ago. Now, I found out from my cousin who still resides in St. Paul, who asked to research some of the information, like you needed the name of my great-grandfather, who was Yosef. And there was a, when they looked at the death certificate, when my relatives in St. Paul now looked at the death certificate, they realized that the person who filled it out was my aunt, and she, when my grandfather passed away, she did not know all this information. In other words, since he hadn't discussed it with the family, it was not information that she had readily at hand and couldn't fill out the death certificate. And I have a feeling this happened time and time again in the Jewish community. When someone who arrived here from Europe, lived a couple of decades in America, then passed on, when the death certificate was filled out, a lot of vacancies on that certificate.
First of all, Phil, a lot of people don't know that when you look at a death certificate generally has the name of the father and mother, including the mother's maiden name, and the birthplace of the father and mother. So it depends who gave the information, who the informant was, who the person was notified at the time of the death. Lots of times it was a child, or like you said, a niece or a nephew.
Well, that would be
or a grandchild.
The aunt would be the daughter of my grandfather.
Who didn't know that information.
Nobody knew it.
Right. Well, there are other records like Social Security records, for example. An application for a Social Security card had to be filled out by the individual himself or herself, and she had to provide in her own hand her birth date, her birthplace, and her parents' names, including the mother's maiden name. So you know that's going to be fairly accurate. But a death certificate, most of the time we get good information from death certificates. The early ones, unfortunately, don't always ask for a birthplace, like a city. It says Russia or Poland or Hungary. It won't say the name of a town. But in this case, we were able to locate it. I presume you got it from the death certificate?
Correct.
Or from the cemetery. Also,
From
if you'll go to the
death certificate in
cemetery,
yes.
if one will go to the cemetery and find the gravestone, lots of times the person's name will be inscribed in Hebrew with the father's name, Pinchas ben Yosef, in other words.
But as you know from our discussions before today, the information of who my great-grandmother was nowhere to be found. Until you've discovered it now.
We've got it here. As a matter of fact, you have even another maiden name, so you have a whole new family line that you probably didn't know prior to that, Spieseisen, which, and by the way, this record...
Never heard that name before.
I beg your pardon?
Never heard that name before.
Yeah, it's a very uncommon name, which is also interesting if you wish to trace down relatives perhaps that survived the war from Europe, either living in Israel. It's an uncommon name, and it's somewhat easy to locate those names if there are any survivors. But as I explained to you, this record is from 1872. Now, once we've got this, it's possible the Mormons happen to have the records for crossing abroad going back to 1800, 1802. And in crossing abroad, actually, the Jews only started adopting family names around 1822. But even before that, there are documentation. And we can take a look and see if we can find something more than that.
So
perhaps.
generally speaking, from what I can gather, too, on the dates of how far back you can go, it seems that somewhere in the mid-1700s is about it, so that records are being kept or surnames are being given sometime between the mid-18th century to the early 19th century. Is that
actually in Galicia, which is southern Poland, which was part of Austria at that time, family names were adopted around 1795.
I see.
But in the Russian part of Poland, which is where we're talking about, Russia and the Russian part of Poland, family names were adopted around 1821, 1822.
Right. So I recall on the family trees I've seen, when they go back into the 1750s, 60s, 70s, it only has one name, like Laser or...
That's correct.
No
It'll actually say, the family name would include the father's name, Laser Moskovich, Moshe Itzkovich, Itzhak Moishkovich, Mindlovich.
Interesting. Well, you know, this is our first of a series because, Mayor, I wanted to have you back time and again when you can. It's a wonderful thing for me, but I think it's a treat too for our audience to see how this can be delved into and how it's not easy, but what a wonderful feeling you get. I know, telling my family some of this information, my uncle who's still alive, my children who carry the Blazer name. Do we have to change our name back to the original now? Or
Blueser? I don't know.
Keep that secret,
I don't know if that's advised. I think
so.
so.
Okay. We can keep that.
I will tell you one interesting thing, Phil. If we would all think of our family history, you know, in a way that when we pass away, we pass on usually a financial legacy to our children. And if we're good money managers, that may last a little longer, and it may not last as long if we're not such good money managers. But the only real thing that lasts, that stays behind, is that cultural, historical, spiritual legacy that only we can pass on to our children. And if we don't do it now, we're not going to have much to pass on.
That's absolutely for sure. I don't want to embarrass you here, but I want to put your name and phone number right over here because I'd love to have some of our viewers who feel the urge to make that commitment so that the generations ahead know from where they came, can give you a call and you can talk to them about how this can be a fact because, as you say now, the time is now. Thank you for being with us. Again, we will talk very soon. We'll get some more update on the Blueser name, and we thank you. I thank you, and my family thanks you. And your family should thank Meyer too, so get in touch with him. We'll be back with more after this. FM 100, your station, now on the air. We're so happy to announce that. Now 24 hours a day, you can get all over Southern California Jewish Israeli music like what you hear in the background, news direct from Israel Radio on the hour in English and Hebrew. Yes, and we'll have lessons in Yiddish and Hebrew. We'll have programs in Ladino. We have it for you now, all the exciting features that we've been talking about. Now on the air, FM 100, your Jewish community radio station for all of Southern California. Subscribe. You have to subscribe to our radio station. We're so happy that we've had so many subscriptions already coming in. Call us at 818-786-4000, FM 100.
The U.S. Virgin Islands invites you to join the celebration of the 500th anniversary of its fascinating and intriguing synagogue, one of the oldest in the Western Hemisphere. The Jewish community of the U.S. Virgin Islands is sending you an invitation to visit them, see the islands, and at the same time say shalom. In the Virgin Islands, the language is English, the currency the U.S. dollar, and that means you get full value. Your new friends at the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. John, St. Thomas, are waiting to say shalom.
What I like about nuts, the Peanuts Festival. You can play all day. You go up, down, all around, in and out, all you can take. Yeah! We got a rock and roll concert just for kids. Come on! Kids shows, meeting friends, the doctor is in at Nuts, the Peanuts Festival. That's what I like about Nuts.
Hey kids, get a free Peanuts Rock Festival poster. Only at Knott's.
California Loves Israel, right around the corner. We depart November 6th. And next week, we're having a whole half-hour program about visiting Israel. And we'll focus on some of our California Loves Israel departures of the past and of our California Loves Israel departure coming up this November. Take advantage of our special price starting at $1,499 Los Angeles to Tel Aviv airfare. That also includes your hotels, sightseeing, Shabbat dinner, which will star Rabbi Shlomo Karlebach, great folk singer and Hasidic spiritual leader, and so much more. Breakfast every day, and what else can I say? The Israeli breakfast is unmatchable. So please give us a call at 1-800-ISRAEL-1. That's a toll-free number for you to call right now, 1-800-ISRAEL-1, and watch us next Sunday for our special half-hour tribute to tourism to Israel.
The Hortobagi Hungarian restaurant, listed as one of the 10 best restaurants by the Los Angeles Times, offers a wide selection of authentic Hungarian dishes and friendly service. Discover fine wines at the complimentary wine tasting every Friday. Also featured are dishes of famous Hungarian fish specialties. Truly Hungarian dining at its best. The Hortobagi is located at 11138 Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. Open for lunch Tuesday through Sunday with the new all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Phone 818-980-2273.
Lustig was sitting with us, producer of Schindler's List, and I wonder how you answer someone who says too many Holocaust films. It pains me to hear people with that reaction, but how would you personally react to the fact that someone may come to you, someone even Jewish, and say, Mr. Lustig, we've had enough already?
Before I start, I just want to tell you that I was not the only one producer. I produced together with Steven Spielberg and Jerry Mullen.
Well, we'll get to the whole background.
Anyway,
I won't give you credit for the whole film, I promise that. But how do you answer this issue about, because I know you've been involved in other such projects which deal with this issue.
I think it's never, from my standpoint, it's never enough Holocaust movies. Because too many people today doesn't know what means Holocaust. And I think we should, based on this success what we have with Schindler's List, I hope that will be an opening to make more Holocaust movies. When I say Holocaust movies, I think all the movies, they have a thematic between 39 and 45, but also movies they should try to stop everything what's going now on, because past is past. But we made also Schindler's List because one of the reasons is also that should never happen again what's happened in this.
Let's take a break, come back and talk about how you got involved in these three projects which you just talked about, Schindler's List, War of Remembrance, Sophie's Choice, and about the concept of the righteous Gentile. I want to talk about that a little bit too. Obviously, we're talking about Schindler. Yeah. We'll be right back.